Okay, we're a little behind, but we'll, in our public services.
I mean, we always get a printed agenda, but it's always different from what you submit, so. Thank you. So if you're facilitating the conversation, you could sit at that one and
You.
Right. The suggestion was made that I sit here, and actually I like this microphone much better. So I took that suggestion. Thank you. So you may have received a flurry of emails from me yesterday. I understand that it was a Sunday, so thank you for those that did reach out. The landfill was on fire slightly on Sunday. At 10 o'clock, we received a phone call from Fire 6. Thankfully, Andy Ogden, who was actually a landfill supervisor at one point, is now chief deputy at Fire 6. So he called our staff directly. It was great to have somebody on board at Fire 6 that had a lot of landfill knowledge. So that helped significantly. Dan Bales, our operations manager, met Andy up on site, and they discovered a 30 by 30 foot fire near the 1600 road, which is our road up to the fill. And worked on extinguishing the fire. Visibility was limited due to fog, first of all, and then smoke. So once the smoke cleared a little bit, they noticed a secondary fire up on the second part of the fill. And that's when they went on top. So that is actually the aerial view of the landfill that you're seeing. And then Sean, I don't have a picture, but you want to, oh, sorry, thanks. This kind of messed us up a little bit, me moving. So you can see the current fill that's outlined in purple. The fire was not on the fill, which, landfill fires happen. There's combustible material that's being worked on active fills, and that's normally where we might see a fire. This one was different in that the fires were on the first spot, it's on the tarp surface. So that was the first kind of anomaly with this. Second to that was our second and third hot spots were located near the top of cell 9. And, really didn't have a rhyme or reason for where the locations were of the hotspots and the fires originally. So once we discovered the second and third, we stayed on site, had crews come up and assist in extinguishing the fire through just, suffocating it on the tarp surface. So that's where you're seeing in these images that I've given you. One's a little bit closer up, one's a little bit farther away where you can see the smoke. But the fires did stay localized to the tarps. I think what makes this again abnormal is the locations. That area has been covered for about a year. We're not quite sure how the fire started. We're working with Fire 6 to investigate it. It's not a normal landfill fire, how we would look at it. The conditions have been wet. Thankfully, these cell locations were, if you guys recall, the West Rock project and all the dirt we received from that project. And there was a lot of dirt under there. None of the waste actually caught fire. So we are continuing to monitor. We have crews up there. We'll have them there this evening, monitoring potential hotspots, but we have not had anything pop up since yesterday. No new fires. And we're still, again, kind of chasing down that cause.
So what was burning was on the surface, and it's
Correct.
just the tarps?
Correct.
And when 1, 2, and 3 in the diagram, that's 3 isolated spots?
Yes.
Oh. Do we have any camera views that span any time at all?
Not on these specific locations. We are, again, working with Fire 6. We've had some vandalism up at the landfill. I don't know if you guys recall, we did have an excavator that was rented about a month ago. We had somebody shoot out the windshield of that. We've had some vandalism inside our pump house. We're not ruling that out. I don't want to say that it was, arson or anything like that. We don't know that, but we are chasing down the reasons and trying to figure out who was out there. And we're following up with some people who called it in as well.
Based on what you said, this is really strange having
is.
this kind of fire.
It is strange, yes.
Yeah. Typically you'd understand one that comes from down below.
Absolutely.
This looks to me like it was not natural.
It's definitely not typical for what we would see, absolutely. We didn't have any fires at the fill itself, which again is more common. And we also didn't have any voids which we would see, something from deep down, maybe from a lithium battery. That's not something we saw in this situation. So we were kind of running it down with the fire department to try to figure out, get some more details. And maybe it was just an anomaly and it was something that we can explain. So once we have the information, we'll definitely share it with the board.
You've talked about the excavator in the pump house or whatever storage unit. Does it feel like maybe it warrants some further security up there with camera systems or something?
Absolutely. It's definitely been a topic of conversations prior to this occurring. Our Deputy Harris, who's our Public Works half-time deputy, has been on it since we've had issues with the excavator and the vandalism, especially now moving forward. We've also worked with, his first name's Feist, who's security for Weyerhaeuser, because of course Weyerhaeuser property is normally secured. So we've been working with him on, if there's been trespassing, if people have been out there, to try to kind of run this down as well. So we are definitely talking more security.
There's no fence around it now?
Not around the entire perimeter of the landfill, no.
No.
Yeah.
Weyerhaeuser accesses stuff back in there and you have the wild horses and stuff.
Yep.
We probably couldn't.
Do you want to
Yeah.
expand on that at all?
Yeah, so if we're talking fencing the entire property, it would be about 350 acres of fencing. We would be crossing areas that are used for timber hauling through the site, accessing wild horses, as well as that may divert natural wildlife from the area as well.
Is the comm tower on Weyerhaeuser property or on?
Do you mean where we do our point to point?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Weyerhaeuser property.
Okay, well,
We did put out a press release. So we may be getting some calls. Again, as we have updates, we'll share with the board and then, of course, the public if we have more information. All right.
So rather than fence in the entire thing, do you fence in the pump house or things like that?
Right. So we would make it, I know I used this word already, but more localized to what we can contain. So that is what we're looking at. We're looking at, different gate structures. Of course, cameras are always something that's an additional security feature. So absolutely, yes, that's what we're looking to do. Maybe just trying to contain things a little bit better.
So for the map that shows the different cells,
Mm-hmm.
the 1600 road actually is along the southern edge of the cells.
Correct, near this location 1.
And we had to rebuild a portion of that
Do you mean recently rebuild?
since we acquired the site, I think.
When we built into starting cell 7, the road used to go directly, actually on the right-hand side of that picture, that other road going out is the old 1600 there. So we did have to drop it down along the property line of the landfill.
And that's a major access for hunting and whatever recreation is allowed.
There is no recreational access through the landfill gate.
It's just logging operation.
Correct.
Yes.
So to go to cell 9, you do have to go through the gate.
Yes, so we have one gate at the entrance to the landfill. That gate is a Weyerhaeuser and Campbell's County gate. It is not a recreational access gate.
Right.
On the east side of the property, there's an additional gate that's supposed to stop other people that are using a recreational area from coming in the back area of the Weyerhaeuser properties.
Sounds like a good place for a camera.
Does.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Sean. All right, we have building and planning. So I've got Tracy Jackson coming up. We have updates.
Good afternoon, board. The right time. Excuse me. So in previous board meetings, you guys had I was gonna give you an RV park update on Paradise Cove. We had the Attorney General's office call our office, Sebastian, he spoke to myself, Mike Wilson. I just want to confirm or let the board know that we let them know that it's a legacy park. It probably wouldn't meet today's standards, but we're trying not to displace anybody and to do the best we can with the resources that we have available. The park owners have been very workable and have done everything that we've requested of them. And just so the board knows, they have put many fire extinguishers throughout the park, as well as they did end up moving one of the trailers away from another trailer. And then they've cut the tall grass, but since it's been wet, that's not a concern of ours just because the grass is damp. But they have been more than workable. And so we know he's like more a nuisance abatement type complaint department. He was very thankful from the information that we had given him. We gave him the park owner's name and phone numbers that we've contacted, and he said he would follow up with them. So I'm just letting the board know. I think you had public comment last week or the week before, and they have been in touch with our office, and we hope we've given them all the information that they need. I have another.
Would you
sorry.
mind repeating that he is from the AGO's office?
Sebastian from Attorney General's office,
Customer Affairs Division.
customer
right?
affairs, customer complaints. Yeah. Another complaint I've received.
Just another question, and
I'm sorry.
that was, everything you just described was already in place before Sebastian came by to,
Correct.
yeah.
We just emphasized everything that we had worked with the park owners on.
Mhm.
So they could, that could be portrayed back to him and hopefully close his case. But we'll see what transpires. We're here to help. I had another complaint regarding around the 6700 block of Willow Grove Road. Someone putting in some temporary, RVs. We did get a complaint internally, and it's with our nuisance abatement officer. I've also let Season Long and Andrea Yoho both know that RV parks, they kind of share some of the burden with us on the RV park, RV campground code. So if it's ours, we'll take our portion of it, and then environmental health will look at their portion of it. So that's more to come on that one. That one's just a fresh complaint. I have a Sella contract on here. When we came to the board about the third party contract, they help us do the behind the scenes programming stuff. I'd like to continue that into 24 and even 25 if possible, at least 24 for now. Same rate, $165 an hour. It's only as needed. If we ask them to do something, they charge us. They're very gracious with their charging. They barely charge us anything. I think we're up to about $26,000 for the total year since they came on board, and we've knocked a lot of kinks out. We have some big ticket items we'd like to utilize them for. One of them is GIS mapping and using our GIS internal service
and putting that in an Acela map. So the homeowner, customer, anybody in the public can literally click on a parcel and see everything that's going on that piece of property. It's kind of, a lot of other permitting systems have it, and we would like to roll that out. It's time consuming. There's a lot of programming involved, but we can find out about violations, or if someone's complaining about something, it would pinpoint everything. So if they have a building permit, what's the building permit for? A single family dwelling or a fence or a whatever, then the neighbor can know.
So what's not available now for customers? Because you have, customers have access to GIS.
They have
You
access
can
to
do the epic
GIS.
and you can get into what the
They,
zoning
but
and
they're
all that.
not connected, and this would connect all the dots and bring them all in together. It would put the layers within one system. So we would use Jim's Magic and the assessor's office Epic system, which goes through our GIS system,
Right.
and it would map it into the permit system.
So the permit, the various permits for improvements are not listed.
Correct. And this would tie it all in together, utilizing the maps we currently have and put it into the new permit system.
And those permits are all public documents, so
They are.
They need to be made available to the public.
Yep, we're trying to do everything we can to get all the information out there, so it just streamlines things. If we're not available, or a lot of it's, find it for yourself. They like to dig in and see what their neighbors are doing, so we're allowing them the access. Just to become more of a one-stop shop. instead
City of
using-
Kelso does the same.
City of Kelso has a different permit system,
Yeah,
but
it's
they have
different.
it all online, and same with City of Longview.
City of Woodland does.
City of Woodland does too.
Yeah.
Lewis County does. Lewis County and Clackamas County, Oregon are the two that we would like to kind of follow suit.
you
It's very straightforward, very easy for the end user.
So I think you're hinting that it's gonna be more than $26,000.
Maybe not. It took us a while to get a lot of kinks out and to fix some of the corrections that the previous third-party vendor had going on. So this is more, now that it's a little more streamlined, I think it's just more our staff working with them.
And the financing?
We have it in within our budget. It's professional services line.
So it's money that is
Comes in
already
for
collected
permits.
from the permit fees.
Comes in for permit
You-
fees
you
and we
won't have to
utilize it.
Increase the permit fees to
Nope.
finance it.
Nope. In fact, our permit fees are going to remain status quo, and we are reducing a few of them and making them fixed costs for handicap ramps and the same as plans. So somebody like Habitat for Humanity or New Rock or anybody can come in and use the same plan as long as the land, I mean, as long as not like this, but as long as for the most part, the lots look the same, they can build for their same as plan is reduced to very, very low amount.
brief comments I heard at BPAC was they liked the improvements that have happened in Acela. They mentioned a couple of things there. Hope we were still working on. I can't recall the specifics, but it seems like there's been some progress in that, and the people, at least that are part of BPAC, have recognized that the progress has been positive.
And I'm gonna skip down to the BPAC also, that was my last agenda item.
Well,
Uh,
just a second, just
yeah.
for clarification, I got confused. You have spent to date under this contract 26.5K,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, going into the future, you don't know whether it'll be 26K or not, but
I-
it'd be $165 an hour.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep, and that will maintain. They've offered that going forward, so,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And,
Mhm.
and did that agreement have a not to exceed clause? I mean, we stick that in all kinds of rate contracts.
We shared it with environmental health when we first kicked this contract off, and it was like 33,000 ish. So we'll be real close to that at the end of the year.
But if we add these new programs, they may go over the top of that.
That would probably be billed in January, so we'll be okay.
Thank you.
Getting back to Rick's BPAC comments, they also mentioned, thank you for allowing me to fill the planning manager position. They also knew that was a huge hole with not having that position filled. And they asked that, they were looking for someone with pro development. They were really encouraged with, they wanted the position filled with somebody that had knowledge and development. So that was nice to hear. And they supported that, us rehiring the position and filling it as well. And then the last, I'm gonna circle back to the flood management ordinance. The planning commission finally approved and made a motion with the Cowlitz County Code 1625, and it's the floodplain management ordinance. And their recommendation was 2 foot, 3 foot, basically maintaining the 3 foot other than in a couple areas. And when I went out for a SEPA review prior to them doing this final ordinance, our original staff recommendation was taking it down to 1 base flood elevation. And I had consensus from the board. So when we did our SEPA, I did it down to 1 foot because I didn't want to have to go back out for SEPA and hold this process up any longer than what needed to be. So I would like to bring the planning commission's recommendation forward and then add our staff recommendation for a board meeting. Is that something that the board would entertain, or do you want me I feel like we need to finish the process. But I would like to replace the existing ordinance with the most current language. But I would like, I guess, direction on what the board would like to see. I have to bring it forward with the planning commission recommendation of the 3 foot and then 2 foot in some areas. But I believe our board is looking for our staff recommendation at 1 foot to save the contractor and the homeowner money.
Yeah.
I just want to read the right before I bring it forward. Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to bring it forward, and we can adjust it back to your recommendation.
Okay. And then
If,
we only did
Unless-
receive 2 comments from the SEPA taking it down to the 1 foot just to see what would trigger. And we only received 2 comments. One was from Department of Ecology and the other one was from Fish and Wildlife. And they both basically suggested we leave it at the 3 foot. So we can take those recommendations and planning commission into play, and I'll wait for board recommendation then. Okay, thank you. And then should we schedule something with the board, the whole board about planning commission changes and stuff? I know you mentioned it at BPAC.
yeah, I mentioned in BPAC what I talked to you about on an earlier thing about some changes to the planning commission, basically moving the legal side of things to the commissioners directly, unless we see something we think needs more planning, we can always have them do that, but trying to, like this first started in May and we're at the end of October now, and we'll finally see it here, and it really, I think the ordinance and the legal stuff could start here and probably get a lot of it settled in a timely manner, and they can concentrate on housing developments and the overall plan and adjustments that need to be happening with there. And I also talked to him about the possibility of moving to 2 commissioners per district plus a department head to try and bridge the gap in information a little bit between us and them. I think it was probably with the contractors in there, the story I got that they were pretty receptive to that. With the planning commissioner person,
I agree.
she felt like I slapped her hand, and I said, well, I wasn't talking about anybody in particular. I was talking about general observation.
And we have 2 vacancies right now on planning commission, one in
We're down to
district.
7 as it.
Correct.
as it
One in
is.
district 1 is vacant and one in district 2 is now vacant. So
Yeah.
that would open up your idea if that's what you're looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, to restructure. So more to come on that, I guess. We can workshop it
Yep.
and kind of lay out exactly what's needed, and then we'll have to work.
What I told BPAC is then we would bring that to a workshop. So if they wanted to think this over or do anything, it'd be best to get your questions and come to the workshop and talk about it.
Yeah, the only question is the time. It should be as soon as possible.
In my mind, I'm thinking in the next couple of weeks. I'm trying to fit around all this budget really is a
Right.
priority, and
Right.
I don't want to shortchange that by any means.
Yeah,
Budget
I
is
just-
priority.
Yeah, I meant it sounds like a lot of thought has gone through it and let's not waste time.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to facilities maintenance. Will Tosted's on his way up. Let's go over a couple of ongoing projects and some items on the board.
Good morning, Commissioners. Will Tosted, Facility Service Manager. I know you're probably hungry for lunch, so I just got a quick couple updates for you. As you saw out the windows, we're getting HVAC up on the annex building. You probably saw the crane out there coming in this morning. So that's happening. They already got the old HVAC units off. The new ones are almost on there right now. The Hall of Justice parking lot is underway. They're starting to do the grinding and they're going to do that in phases. I think for the last meeting, you have a layout. You saw the phases that are going to go there. Tomorrow on tomorrow's agenda, we have a motion item for jail cameras. That was each year for CIP. The CIP committee nominates some projects. This is the second project that the CIP committee nominated, and it was to replace or to add 8 cameras at the jail. There was a budgetary estimate of that $80,000, and it came in about 72.5. So it should be a good project. We only got one bid. It was from Accurate Electric, who did the previous large camera job, so they'll be familiar with it. Any questions?
These are external cameras outside or? is it
Internal.
Internal.
Yep.
Okay.
I thought we had added cameras to the jail once before.
Yeah, they switched from analog to digital and upgraded all the controls a couple years ago. But I think there was still some blind spots, and so there was some need for cameras. They submitted a CIP request, and it ranked, high up there for security at the jail. So the project's hopefully moving forward.
How long does it take to get this installed?
I don't know.
The reason I'm asking is $10,000 a camera is this is not Hollywood. We don't need that kind of camera, but
They're
okay,
expensive.
that's my usual complaint.
Any other questions, concerns?
Could you email me what the model number of the camera is?
Yep.
And then maybe if you want to include any other, tangible things that would account for the price. So, how it integrates with the current system and
Yep.
what specs we needed.
Yep. I'll send the specs as well. Anything else? All right. Thank you.
Rick, did you have, Commissioner Dahl, did you have your hand up at all? I thought you had a question. Sorry. No,
Oh,
no, okay. Okay, you can go. Okay, I'll try to make this quick. We did have a couple follow-up items from our budget workshop last week that did go long. So we just wanted to make sure that we had approvals in place in a public meeting. So I have listed on your agenda, and I'm going to have Sean Rowe, Finance Manager over at Public Works, go over these items. These were all included in our budget workshop presentation last week. So shouldn't be anything new, shouldn't be any new pricing either.
Thanks, Savannah.
Go ahead. Go over this.
So once again, I believe it was Wednesday, we had that nice afternoon long meeting of 3 hours or so. Everybody enjoyed. So we just wanted to follow up on these sheriff vehicles. We talked about how
You make it sound like that's long. That's
It's a short
fairly
meeting.
normal, isn't it?
On the initial purchase price of the Tahoes we were looking at, they went from an increase of $11,500. So we were asking to increase the total budget with upfit to a $10,000 increase from $85,000 to $95,000. In the solid waste fund, we were looking to replace some of the undercarriages on our D7s. And that was an estimate of 250,000. That's a pretty standard item we do every year. That way we can, really extend the life of those vehicles out. And then the last one was a replacement of one of our D7s to a D8 dozer with an estimate of $1.4 million. And the lead time on that hopefully will be in 2024.
I think during our workshop, you mentioned how the price increases recently have really been intolerable. Do we have the opportunity to hold off until prices moderate a little bit? The farther away we get from the supply chain backup that caused so much of this, the more the market has a chance to moderate the price.
In discussions with the representative from CAT, we discussed this with them previously in 23 and looked at a new value again and what their forecasts are. And there are no foreseeable reductions in the future. They estimate 2 to 3 more price increases over the next year.
So they're sole source.
They're under a Sourcewell contract. It's one of the third-party cooperative buyings.
And he was the salesman working on commission.
He is.
I guess I'm just thinking,
So, yeah.
do we have an alternate way of looking at how the market?
Sure. So Sourcewell contracts are already, they're through a purchasing cooperative, which means they've already gone out and tried to get the best price possible. They're not giving us a price. It's all already in contract, the pricing and the any markup that they would receive or anything of that nature is already predefined by contract. So it's not something we can really negotiate too much on.
So an anomaly in the marketplace, the pandemic causes the prices to go up, and that anomaly goes away. There's no moderation. It's always prices going up. I thought the markets worked a little bit different than that, but apparently not. Or do we just not know?
I could always look at my crystal ball and what's going to happen for markets, but I don't anticipate these types of equipment going down in price in the near or long term, maybe 5 years.
What was our last purchase price?
For the D8 dozer, I believe we purchased one in 21, and I want to say it was 1.1 million. The other comparison we've used recently was the compactor. I believe one was 2020 at 1.2, and then this year we purchased one and it was 1.7.
So you mentioned this cooperative, whatever we're part of. So they go out and negotiate prices for all kinds of different things. And we make the decision if we want to be part of that cooperative, then we purchase through them because they have the ability to get better pricing on a scale.
Yes.
Does it precludes us from then saying, oh, I want to do it through this one, or I want to ask a local or something what they can get it for? I mean, once we commit to doing that, is that what we do?
No, we are no means locked into only using that contract, So the purchase of the equipment would actually be through our local CAT dealer.
Okay.
And it would be the same pricing
So
they most likely be able to offer us.
What they do then is to honor the contract that you've already set in.
Correct.
Right. But we're not locked into Sourcewell. I mean, if there was another cooperative or more pricing that came out, that if we got competitive bids and that was lower, we would go with the lower bid.
You could move if somebody else was saying, well, I can get you that for 1.2 or something.
Sure
Right.
could.
Yep.
Okay.
The only time that we're
but you
locked
haven't
in-
done that though. We've just stayed with the co-op.
We just started the co-op actually the last couple of years. It wasn't always through Sourcewell that we
Yeah,
purchased
so
our dozers.
Previously,
So
with-
again, I mean, I suppose there's not much we can do about it, but I go back to the thing. We started the co-op to deal with the price increases that are being foisted upon us because of this anomaly. And the anomaly is going away, but the prices keep going up. I guess and it's not necessarily a complaint for you. It's just, at what time does the market, respond to the
Yeah.
changing conditions?
Absolutely. I mean, we feel that with our all of our requests are, price increases or, trying to recognize that we're going to be facing increasing prices in the future as well. I mean, completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and even going back to the sheriff vehicles, we did not expect to see a 20% increase on the base model. That's just, and that's Washington State contract, you know, they've already negotiated the lowest price for large quantity purchases.
All of the above, but a question, you're buying the D8's a new dozer,
The D8 would be a replacement of one of our D7s.
and what's gonna happen to the D7?
Depending on,
Our chairman would like to buy it.
An
I'm more into excavators.
Yeah,
but-
excavator.
so depending on the life of our spare dozer up there, we'd evaluate which one's the most valuable to keep and which one is the one we should send off to surplus auction.
So how many D7s
This would be our,
do you have?
yeah, so this would be our third D8, and then we'd have 2 additional D7s remaining.
Okay, and you would keep this D7 for spare parts is kind of what,
We
you
would
were
keep it
saying.
as our backup D8 and the current
Yeah.
or excuse me, a backup D7, and then the current backup would go to auction.
yeah, the only sad thing is typically the same part fatigues
Mhm.
through use. So, okay, it's interesting. And the undercarriage was for,
That'd be for our vehicles as they wear. We just want to have that in there. This year we rebuilt one of our D8s. That's the tracks pretty
Right.
much of it.
yeah,
And just to extend the lifespan of the vehicle, for us purchasing it at such high value, we want to make sure we get the most out of that equipment before sending it down the
so,
lane.
so that doesn't include the compactor undercarriage.
No, sir.
That's a little more expensive, isn't it?
I would imagine so.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Just a comment, this is, the thing I like about the landfill is it's being operated like a proper enterprise. And you've got equipment that you've got to buy in order to stay in business. Makes total sense to me. The prices, well, I'm with everybody else here, it's like. So you'd like a decision now? Is that,
Yes, please. Kathy's saying yes,
Kathy's
please.
shaking her head. So I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request for the vehicles, the undercarriage rebuild, and then the 8 dozer as has been discussed.
We have a motion. I'll check real quick for any questions. Yeah, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. That's all we have for our agenda today, unless the board has any other items.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just addressing your concerns, it's, I think they're spot on being concerned. Trying to time the market is pretty difficult considering that one of the biggest variables out there is the printing press and the money that's overseas. If that money that's overseas gets repatriated much, the inflation rate's gonna go, and we haven't seen all the inflation.
I
Come
guess,
through yet.
I guess I was willing to vote no because of the D8 dozer purchase. I asked if we had capacity to not go forward with the purchase.
Yeah,
Because as you've pointed out before, sometimes we buy new equipment because that's the date. We have it on a calendar for a regular replacement, whether there's capacity left or not. And
yeah,
I would appreciate a little bit better explanation on that.
yeah,
but-
no, I think your questions are always, are appropriate here, and it's often a risk versus stakes. If our compactor goes down, how many compactors we've got? 2? 3. And what happens if one goes down? See, I recall one did go down some time ago
Yep.
and it was not comfortable.
Yeah, so we maintain three, two are active in normal working condition, and we have the third one for the backup if one does go down. And so we can get the repairs on that and still continue operations.
And you're using both compactors every day.
Yes, sir.
On average, we're looking at 10,000 hours per compactor per year.
Oh, that'd be math.
No, that's too much. Probably at least 5,000. You
Per
run,
compact, I would estimate in the 2,000 to 2,500.
okay, so
Because we're only open Monday through Friday.
I'm thinking of okay. Well, in that case.
What he said.
You better go before it gets worse.
Anything else? No? We're all good? Okay. We will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.